In the shadows of a volatile Middle East, Gaza stands as a precarious chess piece caught in a larger conflict between the U.S.-Israel alliance and Iran. As we unravel this complex war game, we expose why Gaza is strategically and geographically doomed, an unavoidable frontline in a devastating proxy war. This video will dissect the intricate layers of geography, military strategy, resource scarcity, and economic blockades that seal Gaza's fate. If we zoom into this narrow coastal strip, framed by hostile territories and controlled seas, the picture is clear. Gaza's survival hinges not on its own decisions, but on the broader geopolitical drive targeting Iran. The stakes are not just political, they are existential. Watch closely as we break down the cold, unyielding logic that dooms this region to continuous conflict and hardship. To understand why Gaza is doomed, we must start with its geography. Gaza is a narrow coastline along the eastern Mediterranean, approximately 41 kilometers long and 6 to 12 kilometers wide. If we zoom in here on the map, notice the dense urban landscape squeezed between Israel to the north and east, and Egypt to the south. This tight space leaves Gaza with practically no strategic depth, making its defenses inherently weak and vulnerable to missile strikes and blockades. The coastal access is heavily restricted by the Israeli Navy, cutting off maritime trade or external assistance. The mountain ranges, like the Sinai's rugged terrain bordering Gaza to the southwest, provide natural buffers to Israel and Egypt, not Gaza. These geographical features funnel military and economic pressure into Gaza with ruthless effectiveness. The enclave's land border points are few and tightly controlled, meaning it cannot rely on logistics or reinforcements. This geographical dead end makes Gaza a frontline zone that absorbs much of the fallout from the larger U.S.-Israel-Iran conflict, suffering isolation that cripples both its economy and civilian infrastructure. The war on Iran is not a conventional battlefield engagement. The U.S. and Israel pursue a multi-tiered strategy aimed at crippling Iran's regional influence, nuclear ambitions, and military expansion. Gaza, controlled by Hamas, an entity linked to Iran, is used as a proxy frontline in this broader context. Secret strategies include cyber warfare, intelligence operations, coordinated airstrikes, and economic sanctions designed to isolate Iran and its allies. If we zoom in on the covert operations landscape, we find Israel's Iron Dome missile defense system as a critical asset, protecting Israeli territories from rocket fire, while allowing Israel to strike Gaza with relative impunity. Simultaneously, the U.S. exerts pressure through sanctions targeting Iran's economy, indirectly affecting Gaza's supply lines that depend on Iranian funding and weapons. Military exercises conducted in the region by U.S.-Israeli forces test rapid response capabilities for any escalation related to Iran's proxies. This layered approach uses Gaza as a testing ground and pressure valve, ensuring Hamas remains militarily weak and unable to develop autonomous capabilities that could shift regional power balances. Economically, Gaza is suffocated by deliberate blockades and restrictive policies enforced by Israel and Egypt, both heavily influenced by U.S. diplomatic leverage. If we zoom in here on Gaza's supply routes, the Kerem Shalom border crossing is the primary entry point for goods, tightly controlled and frequently shut down during heightened tensions. Essential resources, fuel, food, medical supplies, are rationed and subject to unpredictable interruptions. The local economy, already weak, is further crippled by restrictions on exports, destruction of infrastructure, and limited access to fishing waters due to Israeli naval patrols. Water resources are critically low, with over 90% of groundwater contaminated and insufficient to meet civilian needs, a strategic vulnerability exacerbated by Gaza's dense population. Agriculture suffers from shortage of fertilizers and fuel. This economic warfare creates chronic humanitarian crises, ensuring social instability that undermines any chance of internal cohesion or autonomous strategic planning for Gaza's armed groups. The combination of military pressure and resource deprivation forms a systemic trap from which Gaza struggles to escape. Gaza's military capabilities are strictly limited and asymmetrical compared to Israel's advanced technology and firepower. Hamas and allied groups rely heavily on low-tech rockets, tunnels, and guerrilla tactics. If we zoom in on the military balance, Israel's Iron Dome missile defense neutralizes much of the rocket threat, while drone surveillance and airstrikes decimate Hamas infrastructure. The tight urban environment forces Gaza's fighters into civilian areas, raising civilian casualty risks, but offering no strategic military gain. Hamas's inability to defend key infrastructure or form a credible deterrence stems from lack of access to advanced weapons and external support, tightly controlled to prevent escalation of the Iran-US-Israel conflict. This asymmetry ensures Gaza remains a tactical liability for Iran's allies rather than an asset, suffering disproportionate damage during each escalation. Rebuilding repeatedly under blockade and bombardment is an unsustainable cycle, leaving Gaza militarily and structurally devastated. Gaza's fate cannot be separated from the wider US-Israel war on Iran. It serves as a proxy battlefield where Iranian influence is countered indirectly. Iran provides resources, training, and ideological backing to Hamas, but risks to its own regime escalate when Gaza worsens tensions. The US and Israel aim to keep Gaza weak but explosive, preventing a unified Palestinian front and discouraging diplomacy favorable to Iran. If we zoom out to the regional map, destabilization in Gaza resonates across Lebanon, Syria, and Iraq, where Iranian proxies operate. Gaza's crises draw international attention away from Iran's nuclear program and military buildup. This geopolitical domino effect keeps Gaza at a disadvantage, used repeatedly as a frontline buffer zone, with its civilian population trapped within the wider conflict lines of US-Israel efforts to dominate the region and isolate Iran. Gaza's strategic position in this proxy war guarantees recurring cycles of violence with little prospect for peace. Information warfare is a fundamental weapon in this conflict. Both the US-Israel alliance and Iranian-backed groups wage media campaigns to control narratives surrounding Gaza. The US and Israeli governments emphasize Hamas's violent tactics to justify military actions and block international intervention. Conversely, Iran channels propaganda highlighting humanitarian crises to gain political capital. Strategic disinformation shapes global perceptions, impacting foreign aid decisions and diplomatic negotiations. If we zoom in on digital social platforms and international media shifts, Gaza's true strategic plight is often obscured or reduced to polarized narratives. This information veil allows the US-Israel coalition to pursue aggressive military operations without proportionate scrutiny. Gaza's isolated media landscape and restricted press access worsen the information asymmetry, keeping its civilian suffering shadowed in global discourse. The psychological operations accompanying the physical conflict deepen Gaza's isolation and doom. The cumulative impact of geography, economic blockade, military pressure, and geopolitical machinations leads to a humanitarian catastrophe. Gaza's population of nearly 2 million faces shortages of clean water, electricity, medical supplies, and food. Health infrastructure is overwhelmed, and rebuilding efforts are continuously stalled or destroyed. If we zoom in on humanitarian data, infant mortality rates, malnutrition levels, and psychological trauma rates reflect near-failure conditions. International aid struggles to penetrate effectively due to security restrictions imposed by Israel and Egypt, both influenced by US strategic objectives. The humanitarian collapse does not just degrade living conditions.